Welcome to the debate. So, I want you to imagine walking into like a physical grocery store. You pick up a box of cereal, you look at the nutrition label for exactly 3 seconds, you glance away, and suddenly the price tag on the shelf ticks up by 50 cents, just because the store somehow knows you're in a rush.
I mean, that sounds like a straight-up sci-fi dystopia.
Right? It really does. But the reality is, if you've bought a plane ticket or, used a rideshare app or even just scrolled through a social feed recently, you are already shopping in that exact store.
Yeah, except it's completely invisible to the average consumer.
Exactly. It's totally hidden. Artificial intelligence isn't just some periodic tool that businesses use for quarterly forecasting anymore. It is the invisible plumbing of the entire digital market.
It's everywhere.
It really is. It's constantly processing massive streams of data to optimize operations, logistics, and user experiences in real time. So the central question we are hashing out today is this. Does this incredible efficiency and unprecedented scale of AI personalization actually justify the severe risks to user privacy, algorithmic transparency, and consumer autonomy?
And that is the massive tension right now.
Right, because from where I sit, this extreme technological innovation is a vital evolution. It shifts our entire economy from just reacting to problems to actively preventing them. It democratizes the market for smaller players and ultimately, it creates unparalleled value for the consumer.
Okay, but I'm looking at that exact same plumbing, and I see a system where we absolutely have to demand rigorous data protection. Because the so-called seamless efficiency is entirely built on an invasive extraction of personal data. No, really, it's a space where black box optimization basically strips away accountability and exploits user privacy for profit.
Look, I hear the privacy concerns, I really do. But let me lay out why I think this real-time optimization is the ultimate engine for economic efficiency. Think about what we're actually doing here.
Okay, I'm listening.
We are moving from a reactive world to a preventative one. Let's take supply chain logistics as an example. In the past, if a storm hit a major shipping port, a human manager would read the weather report, panic, and then spend 3 days trying to reroute cargo.
Right, a very manual process.
Extremely manual. Today, modern networks generate oceans of data, live GPS coordinates, minute-by-minute traffic conditions, warehouse stock levels across the globe. An AI model ingests all of this instantly.
Instantly?
Yes. It doesn't wait for the storm to hit. It calculates the probability of delay, instantly recalculates shipping routes, adjusts delivery priorities, and renegotiates carrier capacity in milliseconds. It literally fixes the supply chain before the delay even registers.
Okay, that's a great example, but you're talking about shipping containers. When we talk about AI personalization at scale, the cargo is human behavior.
But the mechanism is the same, and the benefits extend everywhere. In manufacturing, smart sensors monitor the microscopic vibrations and temperature fluctuations of factory machines.
Sure, predictive maintenance.
Exactly. The AI compares that real-time telemetry against decades of historical failure data to spot anomalies that a human mechanic could never see. It triggers maintenance weeks before a catastrophic breakdown, and it's not just giant corporations benefiting here.
No.
We are seeing a massive democratization of the market. Thanks to low-code and no-code AI platforms, a solo entrepreneur operating out of their garage can build highly sophisticated digital marketing funnels.
Well, they can plug into existing ones, yeah.
Right. One person can capture leads, deploy large language model chatbots to instantly qualify those leads, and send perfectly personalized emails. They can operate with the speed and efficiency of a multinational corporation. That levels the playing field.
It levels the playing field by giving everyone access to a surveillance machine. Look, I'm not going to argue that preventing a factory machine from breaking down is a bad thing.
Glad we agree on that much.
But when you transition this technology from supply chains to human beings, the reality of what fuels that engine is deeply concerning. This seamless efficiency relies on continuous, highly invasive extraction of personal data.
Is it really that invasive, though?
It absolutely is. We aren't just segmenting audiences by age or zip code like a traditional marketing campaign anymore. Platforms are building intensely detailed user profiles by analyzing really granular, intimate signals.
Intimate signals? You mean like click-through rates?
No, I mean much more than that. I mean, the exact dwell time your eyes spend on a specific image before you scroll. I mean, the device you are holding, the physical angle of your phone, the time of day, and yes, even tracking micro expressions while you engage with video content.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All of this feeds into a system designed specifically to exploit human psychology. When you look at dynamic pricing and automated decision-making, where an AI adjusts a price down to the millisecond based on your behavioral profile, the danger becomes very material. Let me just finish this thought. Or when an opaque black box model autonomously decides to deny someone a loan, we are sacrificing accountability, transparency, and consumer consent just to achieve aggressive short-term optimization.
You're saying we're exploiting human psychology, but let's actually look at where this data collection happens on the consumer side. Like, when I open Netflix or Spotify, my homepage looks completely different from yours.
Because they profile you?
Right, but it feels like exceptional service. The AI is ranking and rearranging thousands of titles based on what I am statistically most likely to enjoy. It completely removes the friction of endless searching.
Sure, for entertainment.
Or look at customer service. If I need to know a refund policy at 3 in the morning, a large language model chatbot can instantly give me an accurate answer without me waiting on hold for 20 minutes.
True.
Predictive analytics allow businesses to proactively offer exactly what I want, rather than spamming me with irrelevant noise. You're telling me that's a problem?
I'm telling you the line between relevance and manipulation is being actively erased. I mean, Netflix recommending a movie is the innocuous version, but look at social platforms and advertising networks like Meta or TikTok.
Okay, what about them?
They aren't just politely offering you content you might like. They are utilizing reinforcement learning to continually test ad variants and tweak your feed in real time to keep you hooked.
Okay, for the listeners who might not be deep into the engineering side, what exactly do you mean by reinforcement learning in this context?
It's essentially the same psychological mechanism that makes a slot machine so addictive.
Okay, that's a strong comparison.
But it's accurate. The algorithm learns by trial and error based on variable rewards. Every time you scroll past a video quickly, the algorithm is mathematically punished. Every time you pause, even for half a second, or click a like, it gets rewarded.
So it adapts.
It does more than adapt. It is constantly training itself millions of times a minute on how to best hunt for your attention. Every impression, every micro hesitation is fed back into the model.
Right.
The user is no longer exploring a digital landscape. They are navigating an algorithmically controlled environment, a behavioral Skinner box designed specifically to maximize dwell time and extract revenue.
I'm just not convinced by that line of reasoning, honestly, because consumers actively seek out these curated environments. They choose these platforms precisely because the content is highly engaging.
Engaging or addictive?
Engaging. Think of it like an incredibly attentive concierge at a high-end hotel. A great concierge anticipates your needs before you even voice them. They notice you like extra coffee in the morning and they just make it happen.
Right, but
Hold on. If the AI is optimizing warehouse picking routes and delivery sequencing so your product arrives faster, or filtering out irrelevant junk so you find what you need instantly, isn't that surveillance actually just exceptional service?
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that analogy at all. A concierge doesn't follow you home.
Well, obviously not.
A concierge doesn't stand in your living room, monitor your facial expressions, track exactly how many seconds you look at a menu, package that psychological profile, and then sell it to the highest bidder in real time.
Okay, that's a bit dramatic.
It's the technical reality. A concierge operates with transparent boundaries and explicit consent. The digital market's AI operates entirely invisibly.
Wait, hold on. They aren't following you, John Doe. The AI doesn't care about your name or your personal identity. It is following an anonymized data profile.
Anonymized?
Right.
Yes. It's a concierge who knows the tastes of user number 84621, but has absolutely no idea who that person actually is.
Look, anonymized data is largely a myth when the data points are this granular. But even if we accept that, the intent is entirely different.
How so?
When a platform tests thousands of ad variants per hour to find the exact phrasing or color scheme that triggers your specific anxiety or desire to purchase, that is not a service anticipating your needs. That is an architecture designed to manufacture a need.
It's just marketing optimization. Yes, it's optimization, but it is optimizing for the platform's return on ad spend. It's not optimizing for the user's well-being.
But optimizing for return on ad spend isn't inherently malicious. It reduces wasted resources. Let's actually look at how this data dictates actual market conditions, specifically around pricing and access, because this is where the mechanics really accelerate.
Okay, let's get into it.
You brought up dynamic pricing earlier as a danger. I look at algorithms monitoring demand, competitor prices, and stock levels to adjust prices automatically, and I see the perfect execution of market equilibrium.
Really? Perfect equilibrium?
Absolutely. If an e-commerce platform sees a product just sitting on the virtual shelf, the AI automatically lowers the price or bundles it into a promotion to clear inventory. At the exact same time, it triggers transfers across fulfillment centers to prevent stockouts in regions where the item is popular.
That's the inventory side, sure.
But it applies to services too. In ride-sharing and food delivery apps, AI balances supply and demand, ensuring drivers are actually available when users need them. How is that not just the definition of market efficiency?
Market efficiency for whom? That's the real question. When we pull back the curtain on dynamic pricing, the risks to consumer autonomy are staggering.
Staggering?
Yes, we are talking about algorithms that adjust prices down to the second. What this continuous algorithmic dance actually does is probe the consumer for their absolute maximum willingness to pay.
Okay, how so? Walk me through how the AI actually calculates that.
It aggregates your historical data. Let's say you frequently book flights on a specific route, you tend to travel on short notice, and you usually book from an expensive smartphone.
Okay.
The AI correlates those data points and determines you have a low price sensitivity. It knows you are willing or desperate enough to pay more. It risks exploiting consumers by creating a system where a price might rise slightly just because an item is selling fast.
Which is basic supply and demand.
Or worse, it rises because your specific data profile suggests you can afford the markup. We are losing the fundamental fairness of a transparent marketplace. You don't even know if the price you are seeing on your screen is the same price the person sitting next to you is seeing.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. Let me push back here. Isn't algorithmic dynamic pricing just a highly accelerated version of basic supply and demand?
I wouldn't say so.
Think about it. We don't view a traditional merchant lowering the price of produce before it spoils as unethical. We don't view a happy hour discount at a bar as manipulative. AI just does this in milliseconds across millions of variables.
It's not the same thing.
It prevents capital from being tied up in overstocked inventory, and it ensures that resources are allocated precisely where the demand is highest.
Produce goes bad. A digital subscription doesn't spoil. A ride to the hospital doesn't spoil. The fundamental difference here is information asymmetry.
What do you mean by that?
Think about it for a second. In a traditional market, haggling is a two-way street. The traditional merchant doesn't know your bank account balance, your entire browsing history, or exactly how desperately you need that specific item at that exact moment.
Well, sure, they don't have that scale of data.
But the AI does. When predictive analytics forecast your behavior, like your likelihood to cancel a subscription or your urgency to purchase, and they tailor prices based on that hidden knowledge, the market is no longer a negotiation between equals. You are negotiating against an opponent who can literally see your cards. The business holds all the leverage. The AI knows your patterns better than you do, and it uses that knowledge to maximize conversion.
I think framing it as negotiating against an opponent makes it sound unnecessarily adversarial. It's highly sophisticated demand forecasting. But your point about the sheer speed and complexity of these decisions leads us to our final major tension.
Which is?
Our ability to actually understand and oversee systems that operate faster than human comprehension. The classic black box issue.
Right. Real-time optimization has created a severe transparency crisis. We have financial fraud detection and credit risk decisions happening in milliseconds.
Which is incredible for security.
Yes. But an AI model automatically adjusts approval thresholds, interest rates, and credit limits based on real-time data about borrowers' behavior. When decisions that deeply impact human lives, like being denied a mortgage or a business loan, are made continuously by complex black box models, explainability vanishes.
Well, it becomes harder to parse, yes.
If you are denied credit, you have a legal and fundamental right to know why. But often, the engineers who built the AI cannot fully explain how the neural network weighted the millions of variables to arrive at that specific denial.
That's because a neural network isn't just a simple list of rules you can read.
Exactly. It's a massive web of mathematical weights and connections that shift and adapt dynamically. It's essentially unreadable to a human. And this creates a massive risk of over-optimization.
Over-optimization?
Yeah. Businesses tune themselves so tightly around short-term metrics, like minimizing default risk or maximizing immediate clicks, that they sacrifice long-term customer trust, fairness, and transparency.
Okay, I acknowledge the need for guardrails, I really do. But the efficiency gains of these opaque systems are too critical to our digital infrastructure to simply abandon them.
I'm not saying abandon them, but we need oversight.
Take digital advertising platforms like Google Performance Max or Meta Ads Manager. They analyze data at a scale that is mathematically impossible for human media planners. They are essentially running multivariable A/B tests in milliseconds.
Swapping out headlines and images constantly.
Exactly. Swapping out headlines, images, and bidding strategies on the fly to see what combination works best for extremely specific user segments. This fundamentally shifts the human role. Marketers are no longer sitting in cubicles executing mundane, routine bid adjustments.
So what are they doing?
They are designing the overarching prompts, setting the strategic guardrails, and monitoring the AI's behavior. We are elevating human work from manual labor to strategic oversight.
But setting a guardrail implies you understand the terrain the vehicle is driving on. If the system is a black box, your guardrails are an illusion.
I wouldn't call them an illusion.
How can you strategically oversee a system whose decision-making pathways are completely invisible to you? We are handing over the steering wheel to an algorithm that optimizes relentlessly for its programmed metric, completely blind to human context.
The human overseer is still checking the outputs.
The human overseer might look at the dashboard and see improved metrics, completely unaware of how consumer privacy is being compromised beneath the surface to achieve those numbers.
Look, I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Let's look back at the fraud detection you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
If an AI fraud system at a major bank processes millions of transactions a second, analyzing location data, device patterns, and microscopic behavioral anomalies, it can spot and block a highly sophisticated financial crime that a human analyst would undoubtedly miss.
That is true.
The AI adapts instantly to evolving hacking tactics. In that scenario, isn't accepting a certain level of black box opacity a necessary and incredibly worthwhile trade-off for our collective security and the integrity of the financial system?
It is a trade-off, yes, but it's a trade-off we are making completely blindly. Blocking a stolen credit card is a clear, undeniable benefit.
Exactly.
But the exact same black box architecture used to block fraud is being used to evaluate creditworthiness, filter resumes for jobs, and determine dynamic pricing for essential goods. The mechanism is identical: uninterpretable, high-speed optimization.
But the outcomes are different.
When we allow black box efficiency to become the default standard of the entire digital market simply because it is fast and profitable, we forfeit our right to an accountable system.
So what's the solution?
Without strict regulatory enforcement requiring that these models be auditable, explainable, and contestable, the continuous extraction of intimate data will inevitably compromise consumer autonomy. Extreme efficiency should never be an excuse for stripping away transparency.
Well, this has been an incredibly illuminating exchange. We've really dug into the mechanics of how AI is fundamentally rewiring the digital market. From my perspective, I still firmly hold that AI optimization is the vital, ongoing rhythm of modern business.
And I still see the risks.
Sure, but it has taken static, reactive business plans and turned them into living, breathing systems. Systems that can predict a supply chain bottleneck before it happens, or spot a machine failure on a factory floor before a gear actually breaks.
Which is impressive, yes.
And crucially, it has democratized access, allowing a solo creator with a laptop to build automated workflows that rival the capabilities of massive corporations. The efficiency we are seeing isn't just about padding corporate profits. It's about reducing waste, vastly improving customer service and creating a more dynamic, responsive market.
And my position remains that a living, breathing system of this scale requires deep structural boundaries. The democratization of marketing tools might be wonderful for the solo entrepreneur, but it also means that the capacity to harvest intimate data and leverage psychological vulnerabilities is now universally accessible.
It does both ways.
It does. Without strict regulatory guardrails demanding true explainability, explicit consumer consent, and rigid accountability, the digital market will continue to prioritize aggressive optimization over human agency. We simply cannot allow market fairness to be dissolved inside a black box.
Yet despite that tension, I think we've reached a very clear point of convergence today. We both agree that artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic concept waiting in the wings. It is the foundational layer of the current digital economy.
Oh, absolutely. The invisible infrastructure is already built and it is already running.
It's running everything.
Yes, we certainly agree on that. The AI is running the market right now. The core competitive differentiator moving forward, and the central challenge for all of us, will be how we manage the balance between this relentless automation and meaningful, transparent human oversight.
Exactly. The digital market is a complex ecosystem, far more intricate than it was even a few years ago.
As we wrap up, we invite you, the listener, to pay closer attention to your own digital footprint.
Keep an eye on those changing prices.
Definitely. The next time you open a streaming app and see a perfectly curated homepage, or watch the price of a flight fluctuate while you're trying to book it, consider the vast, invisible machinery processing your clicks and behaviors in real time. Are you being served by an attentive concierge, or are you navigating a storefront that rearranges its aisles just to empty your wallet?
A question we all need to be asking.
We leave you to form your own conclusion on where that line should be drawn. Thank you for joining us.